So today we're going to talk about quite a weird idea, if you like, a real mysticism. Not that I don't talk about mysticism on my social media pages every day anyway, but this is something little known, I would say, but it has been practiced by mystics, shamans, by the alchemists for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And that's talk to whatever you're working with, because all matter is conscious matter. That is to say, living and conscious, that if you make a connection with it, it will talk back to you. It's a strange idea, but alchemists are probably best known for this, and they have shown in their writings that what they call is projection of the psyche into whatever the material that they were working with. But if you understand that all matter is conscious, there's energy in it, there's conscious energy that supports the universe and enlivens all life. And if you listen intuitively, it will speak back to you. So that's why I wrote an essay, perhaps 2,000 words some years ago, and I entitled that essay, Talk to Whatever You're Working With. So I'll read you some of this essay, and then I'll discuss a few points with you. So, all matter is divine, living matter, conscious or intelligent nature, including your creative project. And if you tune into your project intuitively and remain inwardly focused, it will talk back in dreams and intuitive hunches, revealing its secrets to you. I'll share with you a few stories about that in a second, but that's exactly what it is. All nature is conscious nature. There's a good reason why people talk to plants. I know people that I talk to plants. The more you talk to it, the better it responds and the better it seems to grow and flourish. Have you ever noticed that? There are people that give names to their cars and talk to their cars. And the more you talk to the car, it seems to be talking to you or talking back, and it wants to be of help to you. It doesn't break down as often. There's something in it. I'll share a few stories about that in a moment. So to continue, this is that circulation of interest between you and living nature, the living and conscious universe that you and all things really are, which is within you and you are within it, as the soul on an underlying invisible web of life that is and connects all things, including you and your project. The soul is the anima mundi, says Anne Baring. Anima mundi, the world soul. In physics, in particle physics, atomic physics, that's the whole idea behind the everything connected. Everything is interconnected, the quantum field. There is another theory that it's of non-locality. Whatever I do now affects the most distant star in the most distant parts of the universe, because everything is interconnected. It's conscious that way, and there's no time sort of lapse between it. Whatever I do now, it's there already. So it's this consciousness that embraces. We are within it. We are it, are unique embodiments of it, but we are also within it. Okay, so if you talk to it, it will talk back to you. Just imagine, your project, whatever you're working on. I used to do a lot of poetry in the old days, and I used to carry a notepad and pen with me, and I would talk to the notepad. So what is it that you want? What is it that I'm trying to say? And then words will come, and the words might not come straight away, immediately, but if I remain focused, it will come intuitively. The words come. Yeah. So I'll continue reading. The cosmic sea of being, or subtle body underlying physical reality, and the root of matrix of consciousness symbolized in alchemy by Luna and the lumen nature, and which, if you ask and remain focused, will answer with whatever you want to know. Even life-transforming epiphanies about itself, which can nudge the world to previously unknown consciousness, not only for ourselves personally, but for the whole world and the universe itself. Because it is the universe itself. It's the universe itself asking about itself and giving answers about itself. But it seems that it needs a human, that is someone who is going to work on it, consciously, try to figure it out so he can put it into words. And then that consciousness remains within the consciousness of the universe. And it moves it on. I know my whole life was steered, if you like, in this direction of becoming conscious of this, that I am divine, that all things are divine. From the very beginning, I wrote about that in my book, Where We Dreamed a Single Dream, where I go through the process of what happened to me throughout my whole life. There were periods where, you could certainly say that I'm steered in that direction, and I got protection from that side not to go off that direction. There were nudges and there were stops, there were nudges and there were stops, so I would wave my wave, so I sort of go in between the in life, so I would reach that goal. But that is the goal, to become conscious that all of nature, including yourself, is divine nature, and it's conscious. You can talk to it. Okay. So, oh yes, there's a story I'm going to share with you. This is a story told by Brian Swimme, that famous cosmologist. Perhaps you have. I have quoted him a few times in my writings, in my essays, and he has this famous line. He tells this famous story about Einstein, which I shared with you. That he talks about how everyone's asking Einstein, so how did you get it? How did you get this the equation? That energy equals mass E equals mc squared. Energy or spirit is mass, is matter, it's conscious. How did you get this? And he says, he had the answer before he had proof, before he had work, before he had written anything, before he had examples and so on. And he said intuitively, on the bodily level, he got it intuitively. And then after that, he worked to have examples, to have a paper, write a paper with proof and things, how this works. But first, the answer comes intuitively. My whole work is like this. Even when I was painting my paintings, some of these paintings, like on the books, the covers on the books, they were for a competition. And you had to provide a diary of how you went into how the idea evolved itself. Especially these two paintings. I had the idea before I had the diary. I painted it in 3 days, and then I had to come up with the diary of how I got into how the idea evolved over time. It didn't evolve over time. I got it, bang. The problem was how to put the diary together so that my work would be accepted in the competition. The same with Einstein. He got the idea first intuitively, and then he worked on proving it, writing papers and examples and so on. Then he had research. Yeah. So this is Brian Swimme telling a story of someone called Barbara McClintock. She won a Nobel Prize in biology. Yeah. And her way of doing science was a combination of analysis and intuition. Yeah? She would be reflecting upon the chromosomes of corn. That was her study. She would actually commune with them. She talked with them. She talked to the chromosomes of corn. She talked to her project, you see. This is intuition. And they would speak directly to her. She called them her friends. Now, most people would see this as ridiculous in science, but she won the Nobel Prize, so we have to pay attention. Brian Swimme, this is Brian Swimme talking. I think this is the way research will be done in the future, not exclusively, but always together with traditional analytical methods. When she first presented her results to a scientific audience, there was a stunned silence when she was done. It was just beyond what they could handle. It was just stunned silence, no response. Because, people didn't catch up to that yet. They went there. She was already there. They didn't understand. They had to years and decades before they could catch up. 40 years later, they gave her the Nobel Prize for that work. It took the whole scientific world of biology 40 years to catch up to where she was. Exactly. If you work with something, Jung even talks about this. He would bring, there's a wonderful story where blocks of rock were arrived at his home, and they were there just by accident, and they were not, or apparently they brought the wrong stones by accident, and they were wrong size. But he said, no, these are my stones. He talked to him. He said, this is it. This is what you need. Something is going to come out of it. And he talks about the alchemist talking to the project. He calls it projecting into matter, their ideas. But it wasn't so much projecting as it was a conversation between the alchemist and his work. And that's how the alchemist got the message. In dreams, in visions, intuitively. Yeah, that was the whole work. So let's have a look. What else did I write here? Oh yes, I've told you the story about the car. I've had so many examples. This is just one. Before I tell you that story, I'll tell you a story, another example from mythology, for instance. When the Buddha, when he didn't find what he was looking for in the grove of the sages, of the gurus, he decided to go off his own way. And if you remember, he remembered the strings of the guitar, of the instrument. I think it was his father who told him the story that, if the strings are too tight, it doesn't sound right. And if the strings are too loose, it doesn't sound right. It has to be in the middle. That's the Buddha's middle way before the right sound is struck. And then arrived the girl. She gave him the rice in a bowl, and he took the bowl. He spoke to the bowl. He says, whichever way you flow, I will follow you. He put the bowl into the stream, and the bowl floated upstream. So there's another example of talking to matter. Matter is conscious. Matter is going to tell you what to do. It's going to converse with you and give you the answers, like this example of Barbara McClintock, where she talked to the chromosomes of corn, and the chromosomes of corn gave her the secret. She was 40 years ahead of everybody else. Took them 40 years. 4 decades. That's 4 decades to catch up. Some people, most of the things we haven't even caught up to. How, for instance, Einstein got his answers. How Nikola Tesla got his answers. Also intuitively, he would just focus and focus and focus, and he would write his answers. He would tinker, work with his hands, and probably talk to his project. I do all the time. To my car, to my plants, to my backyard, certainly to my birds and to my dogs. And they all reply in their own way. Yes, that was years and years ago. I was reading, I think it might have been an article or something about the Buddha. That would have been 25 years ago, and I didn't understand what the Buddha was. So I was frustrated at this article. I'm thinking, so what is the Buddha? I asked the article. I asked the book that I was reading. What is the Buddha? Tell me, what is the Buddha? There's no answer here at all. And I had this following dream. I'm inside what might be an old, maybe ancient Greek, Hellenistic, ancient Greek temple or university. And there's the old man with a beard wearing his university robes, a professor, the archetype of the wise old man. This is the self, the inner self. And I walk up to him, and he points to a rock on the ground, and he says to me, "There is your Buddha. Even rocks are conscious and divine." Do you see what the message was? It took me a while to figure out the message. The Buddha as a rock. even that is the Buddha. Buddha means everything is divine, or everything has consciousness, intuitive consciousness. It will talk back to you. It's spirit, in other words. Everything is a unique manifestation of the spirit. And that's what the Buddha means. So, you know, there was the archetype of the wise old man, the inner self. He pointed to the ground, to the rock, and he said, well, there's your Buddha. Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out. But if you ask and you stay with the question, you will get the answers. That's how it works. Everything is conscious. You have to understand this. Everything is conscious. So everything has this consciousness. It might not be able to speak the way we speak directly with us. You know, you're not going to ask your phone, your mobile phone, your smartphone, will talk to me. Not yet. The AI is there, but it doesn't, you know, the phone itself it doesn't really have that ability to be autonomous and think for itself. But if you focus, and you focus on your dreams and intuition, it will give you an answer. That's the magic of it. That's the magic and mystery of this, of the ability to talk to things. So this is the story of me. In this essay of talking, I was repairing an old car, an old classic car, and I couldn't figure out why the backlights, the tail lights didn't work. So I'm sitting there frustrated, and I'm talking to the car. What's going on? Why aren't you awake? Why is this not working? I walked away from it, sat down in my chair, and I heard a voice. Because the harness the rear harness is broken. If you know anything about electrical systems in modern cars, there's no rear harness or front harness. There's just one piece. Otherwise, there's, you know, nonsense. So I thought, well, you know, there are stranger things that have happened. So I went back to the car, pulled the chairs out, pulled the carpet off, and fair enough, the harness in this old car had a front harness, which was then plugged into the rear harness through a plug. How was I to know? You did, you know, but I talked to it and it answered, but I listened. Talk to your project and it will talk back to you. But it might not talk back to you immediately, but it eventually will talk back to you if you listen. Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention, I'll read the last paragraph of this essay. It says, one more important thing to add to the above is giving names to the things you're talking to. This transforms the object or project from an inanimate, that is, an inanimate object without life, to a thou, one which is unique embodiment of the soul, living and conscious. That's exactly right. From an it to a thou. It makes it, you create a relationship, then, the relationship is real. Because you're not treating it as some, oh, this is just a piece of plastic, and this is just the metal, and plastic is never going to talk back to me. That's a need. We do that with people that we go to war with as well. We transform the enemy from a thou, from someone, from a human being, or from humanity, a country, to an it, which is then less than living, or something that is not an embodiment of consciousness. Yeah, we do the same thing with animals, but especially at war. You can see this done now by the West, for instance, to the Russians, to the Chinese, to the Iranians, or the Israelis doing to the Palestinians. Human animals. That's what they call them. So it gives you then the opportunity. It gives you the psychological. What should we call it? Psychological power to treat that person as non-human. So you can do with them whatever you like. And it works the same way when you're talking to an object. If it's an it, oh, this is just a nonsense, some piece of plastic, it's never going to talk to me. But if you think of it as a divine there, it will. It eventually you're going to create a relationship. Because, a lot of people still kind of say, well, the work is very difficult and I don't know how to do this work, and I find it exceptionally difficult in my life to do this work of of what I write about, the spiritual work. Remember, the work is about establishing a connection, a relationship, a flow of information between you and the inner self. So you can do this through art. Art is great. Poetry is great. Art is great. Reading. Like I said in many of my videos before, read. Let me have a look at the time. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Read and then underline, because the more you do that, you have to have a special place like this, a cave, away from everybody, so you're not disrupted. And then you read, you begin reading, and then you underline. The more it takes about 3 days to calm down your ego, calm down your attachment to the outside world. Yeah. And then you begin to get hints and clues, intuitive messages from the inside, from the inner world, from your inner self, and you underline, and these things are highlighted, and then the beginning of the relationship happens. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk to you today about. Talking about to your project, because the project is conscious. You have to see it as conscious, and then it will talk back to you. Okay, all matter is divine matter. All matter is spirit. Yeah? Okay, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.